Hey guys, it's your boy Carnifex with another Nerd This video. Today I am going to be showing you the fruits of my most recent labor, the Newbie / FTP Farming Guide Infographic. So this is meant to go along with my Newbie free-to-play guide. I know it's a longer video. I feel like there's a lot of good stuff in it. But at the same time, there might be some people that's like, I don't know if I need to look at this hour-long video, or hey, pictures would actually help this look a little bit. I may not get all the detail right, but I'll get a lot of the gist of it just from looking at this picture. So, and maybe this, maybe seeing this will make some people dive into those waters just to get some of the little tidbits that are laden throughout it. So we're going to go ahead, and I'm just basically just going to lay this out. I'm not going to totally assume you've already watched the other video, but again, just like with this infographic, you're not going to get all the details if you went into this, because that video is an hour long for a reason. Right, so Newbie / free-to-play. So this can be something that you utilize to some degree if you're a new whale. This could be something you utilize if you started free-to-play 2 months ago. It's not necessarily someone who's starting right now free-to-play. It's just, hey, with what we know right now, this would be the trajectory I would set yourself on. And a lot of this has to do with what you're going to be, what nodes are available at what times. There's a lot of things that, that account into this. But anyway, how it starts is I have the legendaries all there in order, right? I have all the legendaries here in order. I'm going to move this over here. All the legendaries in order that I think you should be shooting to acquire them in. Just again, because of the difficulty of the legendary events, how quickly you can get the characters you need to farm them, how relevant are they in arena, etc. But then also these units have been selected in order to make it so that you can also be grabbing characters along the way that help satisfy your gladiator event requirements for that bounty hunter events. Who you're going to use to who are you going to bring to level 80 in order to get the 3-star clear on tier 7. So anyway, these are the legendaries you're acquiring, and you're farming them in this order. The color bars, right? So as you can probably read over here in the key, there's gladiator events, which are in orange. So if they got a little orange, like they hear on Mortha or a little baddie or Eric, right? That means they're gladiators. You can use them for the events, and I recommend them for those events. So there may be additional ones. For example, Puncherface is a traveler, but I don't recommend working on him for those events. I recommend other people, and that's why I've highlighted people like Xantara instead. So that's what those colors mean along the way. And then this the right side means that they're being used for their like race faction events. So if it's the health runes, right, that's orcs and humans. So that's what the right side indicates. So the left side is more like their fighting class, and then the right side is their racial affiliation. So I'm going to go into what this asterisk means. So you can see that a few of these characters who are listed, the pairs are listed here. If you go into this, you can see that I have a couple characters that I say you can use one or the other. And the reason I say that is because in order to use a character on the final tier where you get 3 random slots of a rune event, you have to bring that character to level 80. Level 80 is required, and so because you want to get away with that with as few people as possible, because you do get some benefit, like you get additional stats, and that's not bad. But the value of those stats until we get gear 12 eventually, when I'm assuming we will then have that level 80 will be required at least in order to max gear 12. There will be some additional potential value there, but until then, it's literally just those 5 levels of stats, which is not nothing, but it's not really worth the gold investment, except whenever it lets you get through to these events. So these asterisks are to indicate that, for example, so Shadar and Mordoom, right? And the reason why you don't see anything on any of these other ones is because if I refer to use them for the event, so General Murdoch, Renara, Ember, and Soleus, I put their info in on the right here. Buff and Thal I don't recommend, because you can't even use them for anything yet. By the time you would get them, it would be so late. You better have the gladiator event maxed before you get someone over here that would, I mean, I know they're not gladiators, but you catch my drift. Bounty hunter, right? You better have freaking finished bounty hunter before you get Thalon. So blah, 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 blah. So you can see here, so Tromgar and Little Baddie are a pair. You can see that here. Kinley and Hilda. And then, what's the last? Oh, yeah, and then Mordrum and Shadar. So for Dragon Slayer, bring one of them to level 80 eventually. For Tromgar and Batty, you'll probably end up with both, but you only need one for it. And then same with Hilda and Kinley, you'll only need one of those at level 80 if you follow this guide. So that's what, and speaking of all these asterisks, right? Level 80. I recommend that you bring them to level 80. I put the asterisk before so you understand what the asterisk is for. The asterisk is for this level 80. But if you see them with this level 80, right, in the corners like this, that means that I recommend you bringing them there to, I recommend you choosing those characters that bring to level 80, because if you look in my guide with all of these, we're able to do it without 5 people, and I did that. I've already done this. I have cleared said events with these teams. So that's why I'm not trying to short to make it hard. I'm trying to short to save you that extra currency. So going back in here, so anyway, that's what level 80 means. Gear 10. So this is not minimum requirements. So I'm not saying you need Tromgar at Gear 10 in order to clear the Soleus event, right? They reflect what you can feel comfortable bringing someone to at that point in your development leading up to that event, because this is going to consider their long-term value. You're going to use Tromgar. Tromgar is a great tank, and you'll need to bring him to Gear 11 if you're going to ever try and clear the Tier 15 of the Defender challenge. So it's are you going to use them in Arena? You know, are you going to be using them in other events? And again, considering where you are in your development, how long you've been playing. So you can see here with the demons, right? I've got 3 demons here that are at Gear 11 that I recommend you be at, because at that point you should be getting pretty close to being able to finish the bounty hunter events that you get the gold for, right? You should be getting pretty close to that. You should be getting pretty close to being able to finish demons out for their rune event at that time. So, but at the same time, I'm like, hey, but you only really need, if you have these 3 Gear 11, you don't really need much going on here. So what does the green arrow mean? So here's another thing that the gear bit doesn't take in consideration, is if you use some of these better characters. So you can see, right? Let's go back out here. Zera's up here. Zera's in this. If Zera is on your orc team to get Soleus, you are not going to need everybody at Gear 9 plus at all. And you don't, again, these are not minimum requirements. You don't need them in the first place. But if you get Zera, I'm just thinking like Tier 7 of the event alone, the ability to ability block like Nightingale to prevent her from getting out crap. The ability to give out the healing resistance. She's going to block the tank taunt of the ad in the first round that you had no way of getting around. Super, super helpful. Obviously more Doom in here too, but since that is actually like a required legendary that I recommend you use Soleus for, I'm like, you're not going to have him in this scenario. So obviously more Doom would be great, but you probably already, if you got more Doom without Soleus, I don't know what you're doing. Anyway, so if you use these green arrows, indicate these are better characters, and I am referring to the last character. So I'm saying if you take someone out, take out Corcoran. If it's for one of these two, I'm saying if you take out, Sengiel, you're doing it for Wondaloo. If you take out someone for Cruel, it's Snorri, Shadar, right? You get what I'm going? You catch what I'm dropping? Okay, so that's what the green arrow means. So Buff and Thallon, just kind of touching on these two at the end here. I'm going to raise this up a little bit. Right. So we've got Buff and Thallon here. Doink, doink, doink. And we have not had their events yet. With the Pride faction, I feel pretty confident that these characters are kind of like, hey, you're going to want Hera. You're going to want her at about this level. Hey, you're going to need Renara, you're going to need Revel pretty well geared, you're going to need Salvador at least 10. He needs 4 shackles to get to Gear 11, so when I'm taking into consideration the gear, I'm also taking into consideration how easy it is to hit the next gear level for that character. And then Kagi. And Kagi obviously has he has great synergy with Bori, but there's a chance that if you want to build Kagi and Bori, that it might be better than having Revel and Bori, but you use Revel for the Pride faction, the Pride and Panda rune event. You're going to use him for Gladiator events. I'm trying to focus that as much as possible, that development as much as possible, particularly for those free-to-play players and the newbies who are just trying to catch up as quickly as possible, right? So I feel pretty good about that suggestion. But again, we don't know what the event is, but I really don't see, like, with kits, I mean, maybe there's some weird chance we'll take out Hera, and it makes better to go in with all of them and go with the Rebel leadership. We don't know. If they're geared enough, anything will probably work, but... And for finally Thalon. Now Thalon's where we get another little kind of addition to the key here, right? Because we had the green arrows, and now we have the yellow bar, right? Relative value to be determined. That's what TBD stands for. I just didn't want to... It was going to jack up the key if I made it take more. So Thalon, who we pretty much all think is going to be the next event, with all the elves being brought out, we are almost certain goblins are going to be the faction used to get them. And we recently had... so we can see here, Dr. Frank added, providing the healer function that the goblins have been lacking so significantly. Looks like we're not getting Thanessa. I've heard rumors that, like, potentially she'll be like a raid unlock. They're not 100% sure. At least they're not telling us they're 100% sure, but like, there's a chance she could be the raid reward like Shadar was. We don't know. We'll find out though eventually, but for now it looks like the healer for the faction is going to be Dr. Frank. I'm going to do another video on him and his kit, as well as some of the other info from the recent announcement that came out on the DC Discord. But just so I can talk about these three are the core, and that's why I've put them in at gear 11. I'm like, you can go all in on these suckers, because in Battlegrounds is going to be a really solid team. It's going to be a real pain in the butt. It'll stall out a bunch of things because of all the attacks. Excuse me. Pretty much if it's not Hera or demons, it's going to have a pretty rough time here. And then, so this tandem you're going to need, and honestly, I don't know if there's a situation, like, if you gear 11, right, the OG 5 goblins, I don't think you're going to be good enough to clear this, because so many people have General Murdoch at this point. They're going to have to give a lot of consideration to their difficulty level for having him, both his kit overall and his leadership, which is pretty much better than major shots, eliminating a ton of potential like RNG. Adam is a really good tank when you combine him with someone who can give him extra attacks. So whether that's the General Murdoch leadership, Inspector Gorham, Kyra, right? I know it's not a goblin, but that's who people were using with frequently because his taunt is not consistent. And then Inspector Gorham, this trio is great, and I don't... If you want to go all in on Dr. Frank and you want to spend some real world money, and basically you're gonna have to hope there's multiple weeks of farming. I'll go into this other video, or you're gonna spend some real world money in order to get him to 7 stars in time for the event, even if you max out all the free to play aspects of his personal event. But I assume at that point, but I don't know if you don't need 2 of 3 between General Murdoch, IG, and Dr. Frank. You will probably need 2 of 3. Even with max, like year 11, if you only had General Murdoch, maybe. There's a chance that if you had everyone, all the OG, other, 5, right? So it's take out Instructor Gorham and make him Old Lure. There's a chance if you go all in gear 11 on these guys, you can do that. But if you can do that on goblins, then you could have unlocked General Murdoch in the first place. If you can do that, like, gosh, couldn't you have gotten IG at this point because you've been playing that long and he's been in a couple tournaments? Essentially what I'm saying is you really want to try and at least have these 2. You might be able to get Dr. Frank to a point to where, because he's going to be on a node as well, you might be able to get him to 5 stars in time for this event. And if that's the case, I would recommend getting him up to gear whatever if you don't have any of these 3 geared up, because he's going to be more valuable than these 3 because of what he provides, which is healing, which they have none of otherwise. So anywho, the next project I'm going to be working on is updating the ability ranking sheet. It's one of the most frequently things I get asked if I can kind of update, because it's a little old at this point. But please let me know in the comments if there's other stuff that you want to see. I will be talking to some fellow content creators about a fun project I want to do, but I do want my focus to remain primarily informative and like instructional. So let me know what you want to see, and hopefully I'll be able to get on it. So hope you're having a good one. You enjoyed the video. Thanks.